So I think that in the intro to this video, I would have said that this was going to be a really quick project that I expected to be done by, I don't know, dinner time. Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Have you ever had that project that is at the back of your mind? It's technically the next step, or better yet, the last step, but it's somehow an exciting or mind-boggling symbol. So you put it off, and you put it off, but no more. Today we are taking the last step in my Edwardian foundation garments, a corset cover. If you're new to historical dress, this is actually a pretty great place to start rather than finish. Corset covers with single layer simple garments worn over the corset and other foundational layers. They're often the last layer of underwear before you put on the outer garments. However, this doesn't mean they have to be boring. Oh no. Especially towards the end of the century and the Edwardian period, where lace and frills really kicked in, you can add and add and add some more until you reach your required level of frivolity. Mine is quite high. So, let's get started. The first step is to locate a pattern. I will be using a pattern from the book The Voice of Fashion by Frances Grimble. This is an original pattern from 1905, and the book includes rulers with which you can grade up and draft your own pattern. I did not do a mock-up for this. I know, who am I? But this is a loosely fitted gathered piece, so there will be a lot of leeway for mistakes. I got my lightweight linen pre-washed and ironed. I cut out my pattern pieces, all 2 of them, making sure to leave seam allowance since the guidance in the book was a little vague. The 2 pattern pieces are very simple, and if you don't have this book, you should be able to draft this from a basic body block or drape it. There is a dip at the front to mimic the popular pigeon breast at the time, but you can leave that off to adapt it to other decades if you want. My first step is to sew all 4 of the seams. I know, so many. How can I get through all of them? I sew them as French seams to have a clean finish. Please check out some other videos in the description box for a better description of French seams. I didn't really film them for this one. I then folded the top edge down once at 3/8 of an inch and then again by the same width. I pressed it with an iron to get it into place. Once that was done, I got some linen thread ready and sewed a running stitch across the back section, which was cut on the fold. This stitch line will hold down the fold and gather up the back section later on. My next step was to agonize overlays. The corset cover has 3 rows of lace insertion. Despite having a hoard of lace, there still wasn't anything I was happy with, so I kept putting it off and off until I eventually caved and ordered a new bit of lace. Then I picked a narrower lace which was already in my stash. However, the lace wasn't quite as I wanted it to be, so I decided to splice the wider lace to insert the narrower in the middle. It was secured on either side with a discreet zigzag stitch. So I think that in the intro to this video, I would have said that this was going to be a really quick project that I expected to be done by, I don't know, dinner time. I think it's been 2 weeks since I started this, and I just keep making life decisions that are very questionable. So you would have seen me just assemble these 2 different kinds of lace into one, which I'm really happy with. I think it looks really nice. However, it is now slightly too wide for the effect that I want. So what I'm doing now is I'm gonna go in and trim out the fabric piece on the edge of both sides of this, what I think is 6 meters length. Enjoy the footage or something. I then added a different lace trim, which was also featured on my combinations. I'll link that video down below. To the folded top edge, pinning it into place, I positioned all the lace with the corset cover on my dress form. I then basted all the lace into place with large basting stitches. The lace insertion is the same method I've used on other projects. I found no reason to change it as I quite like how it works. First, you have to sew down the edges of the lace with a small stitch, picking a discrete place of the lace. I usually pick laces with borders for this, so it's not very noticeable. Then you cut the fabric behind the lace between the 2 stitching lines. And yes, this is very stressful. The fabric is ironed opened, trimmed back, and then I sew over the folded edge of fabric with a zigzag stitch. The lace at the top is sewn into place by machine 2, only to the very top edge of the neckline. The decisions between machine stitching and hand stitching seem quite arbitrary here. I really do enjoy hand stitching, but I wanted to save some time, so I used the machine where I could. Machines were very common by the Edwardian era, and you can bet an Edwardian lady homemaking something would absolutely shove it through the machine to save some hours. The front edge was folded under twice at 3/4 of an inch each fold and sewn into place with a small whip stitch. To finish the top edge of the front, the bottom of the fold was left free, and I placed a narrow 1/4 of an inch wide cotton tape into it. I pinned it into place and sewed down the fold with a whip stitch without catching the tape. I then secured the end of the tape at the square edge of the neckline. This way, I can pull on the tape at the center front to gather the neckline. On the dress form, I pull the line of gathering stitches at the back until it looks nice and secure it into place. The last few steps are to finish the hem. I turned it under twice by 1 inch each time and whip stitch it into place. This makes a channel through which I can thread some ribbon. I also did buttonholes. Let's not talk about them. To sew down the buttons, I did this little stitch which I found in a 1950s Singer sewing book, which makes it look really pretty. The armhole was just finished by being turned under by 1/4 of an inch and whip stitched into place. The illustration had some lace, but I thought the lace in my stock might be itchy or uncomfortable in the underarm, so I left it off. I acquired some silk ribbon, which was entirely the wrong colour, and in my endeavour to avoid confrontation with any and everyone, I decided to dye it instead of contacting customer service. It went from a hot pink to a darker red. I then threaded this through the top lace and the bottom channel. And with that, the last piece of my Edwardian undergarments is finally done.